Hey, welcome to my podcast. I'm Naeema, and you are listening to an episode of Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Hey guys, welcome to Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. I am being joined by my good friend, Naeema Burgess-Johnson. She is a school psychologist. There's a long list, so let me look at it. Doctor of Clinical Psychology, board certified in neuropsychology, certified grief counselor, neurofeedback clinician, mother, wife, and then there's some other things that she can't even remember because the list just goes on and on. So I just want y'all to welcome my friend Naeema to my podcast.
Hey, we out here. How y'all doing?
Good. Naeema, I just want to thank you for joining my podcast. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, out of your schedule, out of your life. I know you're a mom. You have things to do. And people are raised. So I just thank you for joining me. I'm excited. It's something I've been wanting to do for forever. And I bit the bullet. I did it. And I just expect greatness from this podcast. And I just want great people on it. So I thought of you. I want you to be on it because you're great. So first, I always start with just asking people a little bit about them, a little bit about their story. So I just wanted to ask you, you have all of these titles. You have all of these things. What made you choose psychology?
God gave me that title. The Bible says that God has a plan for us before we even conceive. So He already has the blueprint for your life mapped out. Like you were created. When you are born to your mother and father, you already have a destiny laid out in front of you. So I was created to be a psychologist. I was created to build the Black community. I was created to be a leader in the field of psychology for people that look like me, to discover the causes of some of the diagnoses that we see, like autism and ADHD, and to combat and completely demolish those disorders in our babies, and to empower parents, help them to understand what they're dealing with when they do have a child with special needs that look like me, the parents that look like me. Tell them that just because you get your child evaluated by a psychologist does not mean you're crazy, because a lot of people are seeking services for their kids. So it was God. It was God who spoke to me when I was 8. He told me I was going to be a psychologist. He had the blueprint laid out in my life. I was always drawn to little kids. I just enjoyed little kids, and I love the fact that I could walk away from them when I wanted to. I just did. So I play with them when I felt like it, and then go about my business.
Right.
And when I was 14, so I used to babysit, and then I didn't get paid for it. I loved it. Like the little kids, they keep you young. They're interesting. Their conversations are interesting. When I was 14, I was told that I would work with children, and I think around that age is when I first came across the first child that I was ever exposed to who had autism. I didn't know what to call it then, but I know what it is now. As I started my studies, I learned what it was. And I was just drawn to that house. I wanted to help. I would go to the house to see this little boy, and he would just cry. He would yell. He would run outside. And when he saw me, he would just come to me and hug me. And, man, it's just been God on me. So the second time I was exposed to autism was when I graduated with my master's. Well, when I was 17, God sat me down and did a 10-year plan for my life in terms of my career. So I was supposed to be a doctor by the time I turned 27, 28. But, I veered off that path. But God, he's oh, man. He's so awesome.
Yes.
He's so awesome. He created more opportunities for me and said, you just don't listen, Naeema. But you know what? I love you so much. I'm going to give you another chance, okay? How about you take my opportunity now? But he gives us grace. So when I graduated with my master's, and I'm just a free spirit person, my professor was like, why don't you go to Arizona? They have jobs out there. Okay. So I applied to a doctorate program. I got in, found a job. I got 2 job offers over the phone, and I packed up and I drove to Arizona.
You really did. You really did. It's like, I'm moving to Arizona. Like, I'm sorry, where? Where's that? What? Okay.
And it was horrible. It was horrible. But as I speak right now, I realize why I had to go to Arizona. I was exposed to a little girl with autism. And that was my first evaluate. I had to evaluate a child with autism. I did not know how to do it. Most people would have panicked. I prayed, and God gave me, when I say everything I needed to assess this little girl, He gave me every thought I should think, every assessment tool that I should use, and I just did it. I Nike'd it. I just did it. Yeah. So then shortly after that, I left Arizona, came back to New York.
I was like, Arizona?
So yeah, we go. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was like, it was so beautiful. It was serene looking, but the spirit in Arizona was very dark. It was dark. The spirit was dark. And, you know, professional in the school system, you have to know how to do CPR. So out there, not only did you have a CPR class, you had, if you see a Gila monster, you know what that is?
No, ma'am.
That is a big old lizard that attaches itself to you, and the only way you can get it off if it's attached to you is if you chop the head off. But the head is still on you. What do you do if you see a rattlesnake and you're with the children? The children comes first. Well, y'all gonna fire me, because if I see a rattlesnake.
I just said in my mind, I don't know if it's LA Mama, but
every man for themselves. And out there, the schools were in the desert, so the classroom was inside, but when you left each classroom, the hallway was the desert. So it's easy for you to come across a rattlesnake or a tarantula.
That was wildlife.
I was in the desert.
No.
They told me to be careful with my shoes, because scorpions get in and they go into your shoe. The way you kill a scorpion is you step on it and you turn your foot. I put all my shoes in plastic bags. Ziplocked all my won't happen to me. When I start a school year, I always look at the time off so I can travel. I looked for Martin Luther King Day. I did not see Martin Luther King Day on the calendar, so I had to go to the office.
Typo in this, please?
Exactly. Went to the principal, Caucasian lady. I said, "Excuse me, something's wrong with this calendar. I don't see how many days we have off for Martin Luther King Day."
Well, you should went and told the people something wrong with your calendar. Excuse me, something wrong with your calendar. I just want to let you know. I think you left off the day. I just want to help you out, educate you.
Yeah. She said, "Oh, that's not a holiday here."
Here, where?
Phoenix, Arizona, where the people said, "Oh, it's so diverse now. Y'all don't celebrate MLK?" Okay. So then I asked her, I said, "Well, what about Black History Month? Do we have any days off in Black History Month?" She said, "What's that?"
I'm sorry.
Immediately after that day, I went home and I started applying to every job I could apply to on the East Coast. I didn't care where I was at on the East Coast. I didn't care if it was Florida. This ain't for no.
Wow.
Right.
They stuck in the Twilight Zone. So whoever lives in Arizona.
That's it. It felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It felt like.
Or lives in Arizona, you know, no shade to you guys, but that doesn't sound like a place where a girl from Harlem and a girl from North Carolina need to be.
And I had come from North Carolina and came to New York, the melting pot. I couldn't find Jamaican food, and let me tell you where I hung out at in Arizona.
Where'd you go?
Every 2 weeks I saw a black person. Once every 2 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. And I promise you, if I saw them, we ran up to each other and said, "What are you doing here?" I promise you, every time. Every time. "What are you doing here? Why are you here? What brought you here?"
Right.
So the closest, I went to the Mexican restaurant and hung out with the Mexicans.
That's as close as you can get, right?
Yes. and they welcomed me, and I enjoyed them, and I learned a little bit of Spanish, and I gained a lot of weight, and then I had to stop going there.
Oh no.
I had their food was so good. Like, I was eating chimichangas, I was eating fried ice cream. Couldn't go there anymore.
Eating for real. And that is so funny. It's so funny because, like you said, you're adventurous and you're a people person. But when we met in school, both of us kind of always tell this story. We met in school, and one day, so for me, I have this thing called Introvert Corner that I have on every podcast. It's because I am like a stark introvert. I am not here for the stranger. I don't know you back. Okay, that's just me. Love people and all, but if you're a stranger, I'm not here for it, and I don't want to get to know you. Okay, I don't feel safe yet. But when I met Naeema, she was like, "You're from Harlem? Oh, let's go to Harlem." I'm like, "Oh, okay, go to Harlem." Went to Harlem. We was walking on 125th Street. That's like the Mecca of Harlem.
That's it right there.
Right, you walking down
Harlem. From Brown Summit, North Carolina. What? It was the best.
She was looking up. Oh God. Oh yes. Hello. Good afternoon. How you doing today? And people were like, hello. And I said, somebody passed by. He said, hey, good afternoon. How you doing? I said, Naeema, do you know them? She said, no, I'm just saying hi. I said, you don't talk to strangers. It's hard, don't you? You don't talk to strangers. Like, oh.
But they look at you in the face. Why wouldn't you say hi to somebody? You're looking at them in the face. That's rude.
We're looking at you because we want you to know I see you. Don't try me. I could beat you up. That's what we
And then say hello, okay? I can beat you up. Hello. Okay.
Because in Harlem, hello means what's up. You want to fight? That's it don't mean the same thing.
Hi. That's it. I just said hi.
Well, I know you. That's what they're gonna think. You know me? So that's Naeema. She was out talking to strangers, enjoying her life. Meanwhile, I was like, she's always been a spunky person, like always, we always have good laughs, good fun, because I guess, that's necessary. You have a friend who's more laid back and a friend who's more like sociable. That always works out. So, okay, back to psychology. The way that you define psychology when you were younger and God said you're going to be a psychologist, is it what you're doing right now?
No. I thought that I do help people emotionally. I saw it as them laying on my sofa and I'm talking to them. First of all, I don't like people complaining all day. It just does something to my spirit. It weighs me down. So I knew that I would be a psychologist.
She got Harlem in her system now. Now she's been here in New York for a while. She got that Harlem in her. What's your problem? Are you okay?
Listen, let's talk about some solutions, okay? Let's talk about where this came from, okay? All right? Let's get to the bottom of this so we can make progress in your life. I'm not your friend. We're not going to sit here. We're not going to just vent, okay? We're going to make some progress. Just along the way, I have been exposed to children and people, and I used to be very quiet. I think I'm quiet too sometimes. I'll sit back and I'll just pay attention. I observe, and like God speaks to me, and he tells me things about people with their mannerism, with their body. It tells me about their spirit. And as a psychologist, a lot of psychologists don't know how to read people's spirits. A lot of psychologists will just listen to people talk, and then they'll give them a diagnosis and have them to work forward. But just because a person talks about one thing does not mean that you shouldn't be looking at something totally different. But I became intrigued with the brain. So when I left Arizona, let me tell you how I left Arizona. When I found out there was no Black History Month, immediately after work, I went home every day for 3-4 hours until I couldn't look at a computer. I was applying to jobs on the East Coast, everywhere on the East Coast, everywhere. And then one day, it was a Sunday, God said, if you start packing and trust me, I'll provide you with an opportunity. So, okay, y'all, I went to U-Haul. I bought boxes and tape, and I just started packing. Nobody had I probably got some responses, but not what I really wanted. I did get a job offer in Baltimore, Maryland, and it was making $15,000 more than a starting school psychologist. And I was like, then I started doing research on Baltimore, and I said, I don't think that's for me.
Well, I don't think I'm ready for that.
So I passed. It wasn't the opportunity for me. And then I had to take one more class in order for me to go to Baltimore. Why? I don't know. But that just wasn't the opportunity for me that God had for me. So I went to U-Haul. I got boxes. I got tape. And I just started packing. I packed till I couldn't pack anymore. By the time I was finished, I had packed 6 big boxes, and I was tired. I took a shower. I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I had a job offer from New York City, and it talked about ABA therapy. I'm like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. I never applied to the position. I never applied to the position. But they sent me a contract. I told them where I lived. They said that they would pay moving expenses and a $5,000 sign-on bonus. So I say that, one, because I was just connected to God, and I feel like Arizona was my wilderness. Every so often, God takes me out into the wilderness. He wants me to be alone with Him. He wants me to be connected to Him and be receptive to Him. And then also that little girl with autism that I evaluated out there came with me when I came back to New York, and I was doing ABA therapy. ABA therapy is applied behavior analysis, and it is for specifically mostly for children with autism, and it's just different techniques to help them to connect the dots in communication and socialization, and with the outside world. And I came back to Harlem to do therapy with a little black girl. I had 2 hours of training on ABA therapy, and the rest of it, God put it in me. When I say this little black girl in Harlem was not talking, she was not looking at you. If you spoke to her, if you called her name, she had no words. She was 2. Let me think. Hold on. I started with her in December of 2007, and she aged out in August of 2008. By the time I finished with her, hey Naeema, how you doing, Naeema? We gonna play, Naeema? Come on, Naeema. Naeema, come on. When I say it gave me so much joy to see this little girl who was like mute, who was, I will say, in our community, when we have something, a situation where we have a child like this, sometimes we think to ourselves, okay, this is my child, and I'm going to have to learn to live with my child like this. In my heart, I said, Lord, this ain't this baby. Help me to help. Whoo, this little girl. And that baby is talking to this day. The mother reaches out to me to this day. This was 2007. It's 2020 right now.
Yeah.
And I just became a part of the family and helped that baby to make progress, and it just gave me great joy. Then I became bored with ABA therapy, and I just knew that there was more.
Right.
I just knew that there was more because it's just redundant. It's repetitive. You really have to have the skill of going into a home, surveying the home to see what their standards are, because every home is different. So, God told me I'm supposed to be a leader. So you go in and you teach people how to be personable, how to respect and gain the favor of this family by just listening to them and seeing what their needs are. Not just listening to their words, but looking at their family dynamic, looking at their body language, looking at their face and the things that they talk about. And so a lot of the clinicians, I became a supervisor, and a lot of the clinicians would say, the family, they're not helping me. That's because you didn't connect with the family. The family goes in the room when I come. That's because you didn't connect with that family. We have to connect with the family first, the parents first, get an understanding of what their shortcomings are, what their needs are, and we got to breathe life into them. Breathe life into them. Because when we can empower the parent and get them over the hump, they do that. We have to help them to cope with their child's disability, and we have to address it head on. Once we can help them to make progress, then that baby is going to soar. Then I was in the schools also, and I wasn't doing enough because my hands were always tied. I felt like I was running the Underground Railroad because you're working for the school district, but we have some information that parents really need to know, but they really don't want us to tell the parents this information because it's going to cost the school district more money.
Gotcha.
So it just didn't sit well in my spirit. And I did a lot of things to go against the grain, but really what I did was the ethical thing, the moral thing to do. And so I created some friction amongst the administrators. And this tends to always happen in the schools with me. So I'd rather just work for myself, and then I'll consult with the school district. So then Corona hit.
Coronavirus. Disrespectful.
Well, I'm going to go back before Corona. Before Corona, I was intrigued with the brain, and I just wanted to know more. As a psychologist, I just was not assessing as deeply as I should. Like, there was more. Like, there were some parts that were missing still. In the schools, if you're in the school, like, they rush you to do the evaluations, and that really shouldn't be what it is. They tell you, okay, this is the battery of tests that you should run for each child. No, it's not. Every child is different. And so I went back to school for neuropsych because I just wanted to know more. I wanted to be able to assess more. And then during Corona, no, I forgot. In last June 2019, I was terminated. I was a district-wide autism consultant, and I was a psychologist at a school district, large school district in New York, very close to New York City, very large place, because I fought for a little black boy. And when you fight for the rights and it makes someone look bad, you're going to have some repercussions. And a lot of people, they would rather just turn their heads to it, so that they can keep their job because they know what the repercussions will be.
It's so funny. Sorry, it's so funny. We see it every day in, like, famous people or whatever. Everybody getting canceled every 5 minutes when they say something. You know, some people say the most dumb things, but some people are really trying to uplift their people, their community, all communities, and people just don't want to deal with the struggle that comes with doing the right thing at times, especially in a system that is built against things that they're speaking on. You have to be courageous and strong and just do it because, like you said, God is going to take care of you. The same way God told you, pack your stuff and you're going to be taken care of, is the same way He takes care of you when you do the right thing for the right reasons, you know?
Absolutely. And everything happens for the good of those who love God and are called. And I am definitely a living testimony. So because of coronavirus, I had the opportunity to teach my son. I know for a fact that my son, a person would classify him as ADHD, right? Mm-hmm. So what's next? Even before coronavirus, I was going back and forth with his school and saying, like, my son needs support. Well, he doesn't qualify for special education. Okay, but he can still have a 504 plan. He can still have sensory supports. He can still have occupational therapy because he can be very impulsive and moves around. I want something put in place letting all his teachers know throughout the grades, his years, that it's okay for him to stand up if he needs to. It's okay for him to fidget with something therapeutic that an OT gives him if it's needed. It's okay for him to be tested in a separate setting. So they would look at me and try to combat me. The school psychologist said, this was before they knew what my profession was. She said, well, why don't you get him biofeedback? Have you considered medication? I said, you know it's against the law for you to even tell a parent that their child should get medication. No, I'm not telling you that that's what you should do, but have you considered it? You're not supposed to bring that up. You're not a medical doctor. So I just know that professionals are very reactive and they count black kids out. So in coronavirus, it was a lot to teach him. And it was God, He gave it to me, neurofeedback. And I just started doing some research, and I learned that I can train him by training his brain. Not only him, I can train the brain of black kids with autism. I can help train people who have anxiety, and it completely takes the place of medication. So there's no stimulation, there's no brain shocking. It's just like ABA therapy in the physical is what we're doing to the brain. And you get your reward based on you strengthen the area of the brain that needs to be strengthened.
Right.
And that's my newest baby, and I'm so excited.
So basically, the way you explained it to me in a layman's term is you can track the responses in the brain and figure out what goes off when you do a certain thing or say a certain thing, and you can help the person find a plan of attack on how to strengthen that area or, coax that area to be less heightened when they are experiencing certain things. So,
Yep.
So many people speak about that, but this is an actual science behind. A lot of people talk about attracting things to you or just self-talk and speaking positive thoughts, and they will take over the negative and take place of the negative. This is just a different way, an actual scientific way to really help you hone in on exactly what you need to be saying to yourself or need to be rectifying in yourself. So for me, that's like an awesome thing to try for yourself or to be a part of, whatever helps. And especially in that population, the autistic, I feel like it's epidemic. I don't even know if there's a word greater for epidemic. I think it's absolutely crazy. I was born in 1984. I do not remember growing up, and I feel like literally like 60% of children are autistic now. And it's so second nature now that you hear like, oh yeah, you just hear like, oh, my first child was autistic. The second one we're gonna see. So autism for me is something that is like seems to be taking over so many homes, so many children's lives, so many parents' lives. And if this is something that can truly help these children and these parents live a life that doesn't include autism on whatever spectrum they're dealing with it now, that's awesome.
I think it's like a conspiracy, honestly, autism. And all of these professionals trying to push medication.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, do you feel like, well, I was going to ask you about motherhood, but let's go here and then we can, come back around to motherhood. Do you feel like it's a direct correlation with autism and like immunizations or a certain kind of the system? By the system, I mean the government. I don't mean like some conspiracy theory, cockamamie, whatever. Do you feel like there is, for a fact, money in giving medicine, immunizations, all type of things? There's always money. It's on the stock market. So if there's money to be made and it's given by the government, obviously there has to be a plan of marketing put in place to make it necessary. So do you believe that there's a true correlation with immunizations or any other kind of medicines in autism?
I absolutely do. So you think about Ebola, you think about AIDS, think about crack cocaine. What community? You think about coronavirus. I wholeheartedly believe that autism is another one of those things. Autism affects Black people at an alarmingly high rate. It's just our DNA. It just does something with the immunization and autism is created. First of all, I believe autism happens with immunizations and a high fever. These medical doctors I don't know where they get their standards from. I don't know if they are being held to the standards. I don't know what it is behind it that they are making these parents immunize these children with 6 and 7 shots at one time, and they are using 2 and 3 different shots in one needle. I've just been asking questions. I've been asking questions. These babies were fully alert and excited and connected, and then something happened. No, something didn't just happen. Your baby didn't just develop a traumatic brain injury. Autism is a traumatic brain injury. Autism completely changes their brain. They're unable to function. They're unable to look at you and smile and recognize you.
Something happened. Do you mean like I'm taking my baby for the 3-month shot and then the next day their baby is not responding the same as the day before?
That's exactly what I mean. So I do a lot of evaluations for children 3 to 5, and a lot of the children I evaluate have autism. And I used to do a lot of supervision for autism, children with autism, the clinicians that would service them. And I have done ABA therapy on my own. And I would just tell parents, think back. When did you notice a change in your child, if there was a change? I would say 99.9% of the time, there was always a change. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times out of my career, the child they felt was like that from the beginning. For instance, I was talking to this one parent. Has your child always been like that? No. Okay, so when did you notice the change? It just happened. When did it just happen? Think about when your child, was he smiling at you? Did he laugh with you? Yes, he laughed with me. He smiled with me. He even said words. Okay, when do you recall him saying words last? I don't know. Did you ever record it in your phone? Yes. Go in your phone and find him talking to you. What month was that? February. What happened around February? Nothing. We went to a birthday party and then things just changed. Did he fall at the birthday party? Did he hit his head? No. Anything happened before the birthday party? Well, he had his immunizations. Get your immunizations out. Show me your record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 immunizations at one time. And he changed just like that.
And then when we're speaking of immunizations, these immunizations what are they? They're the regular measles, mumps, rubella?
They have increased more. They have increased more immunizations. When you think about a baby's body, when you give a child an immunization, you're injecting that disease and those antibodies in that baby. So 7 at a time, of course something is going to happen to that baby. Of course that baby is not going to be able to take all of that at one time. They're new to this world.
Yeah, the baby's fighting polio, measles,
right,
rubella.
Right. So their body starts to fight it off and develop a fever to fight it off, and the parents don't understand. So I coach parents. What I did for my son, and I had to go to 3, maybe 4 or 5 different doctors before they would listen to me. I don't tell them my profession. I came across very arrogant and nasty doctors that well, what are you concerned with? Honestly, I don't have a fear, but my one biggest concern is autism. You think autism has something to do with immunizations? Yeah, I really do. I do. Autism has to do with tornadoes. Excuse me? I've never seen a tornado in New York, and there are a lot of kids in New York with autism. So you mean to tell me autism only happens where there are tornadoes? And they gave me a piece of paper with a study on tornadoes with one location and autism. I gave them the paper back. I said, I'm sorry for your patient. God bless you. We're leaving. I did that several times. I left. If you're not listening to me, if you're not being receptive to what I have to say as a parent, you cannot take care of my child. And I came back to New York and came to my son's doctor, who he has now. I said, I only want him to have no more than 2 shots at a time. I always gave him Motrin before we got his immunization. And I continued with that Motrin to prevent a fever for 24 hours. I'm not saying that's a preventative measure. I just know that every time I ask a parent what happened, they got immunizations and their baby developed a high fever.
The fever. I actually had a coworker, and her son was affected so badly that she had to put him in a living what do you call it? In a
assisted living.
But she said she went for his immunizations, and he was about 3 months at the time. Her baby was never the same. He could not do anything on his own after that. It wasn't even that it was just a high fever. He got a high fever, and he had so many seizures back to back to back to back. And after that, he was just gone. I believe it, and I believe that it's something that people like you, we really need people like you in our community, because parents need to know.
Well, I definitely ask for a lot of protection from God. In my soul, I definitely feel like Martin Luther King, like my ancestors, passed me the torch, and I know that the things that I have to say and do are going to go against the grain. They do already. And I just continue to ask God to lead me and guide me, because it's dangerous. But if I don't, then who will?
It's the truth. And even if somebody else picks up the torch, they need you to get the ball rolling so that they don't have to start from square one. You can get, advance the cause way faster. Let's go into motherhood. What does motherhood mean to you?
A lot of work spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. There are 6 different areas of your life. So there's your body, there are your emotions, spirituality, your finances, relationships, and your career. When you are a mother, your spiritual life is heightened, but you have to be aware of all 6 of those areas of your life, and you have to know where you are, what your shortcomings are, and how to get better. Because you can't say, I don't want you cursing, and you cursing people out left and right. You can't say, I don't want you doing that, and that's what you're showing them. Children learn through watching. Children are sponges. They learn through watching. They learn through just paying attention to their environment. That's how they pick up things. You have to walk your talk as a parent. in every aspect of your life. I didn't know that. So I wanted 5 kids. I did. I was like, I want to be like the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show, the Huxtables. I loved it.
It's the Cosby Show that did that. I wanted 5 kids too.
Wanted 5. Then so when my son was 2 months, that's when God told me that he had something special for him. And everything that I expose myself to, it affects my son directly or indirectly in some way, shape, or form. So I really had to start to be aware. I used to be very oblivious to a lot of things. I live in a bubble right now, but I'm talking about my relationships. I had friends who I thought were my friends, and they really were not my friends. And I was not paying attention. I was living my life, enjoying my life. Right. So now, you better believe I pay attention. You better believe I pay attention to facial expressions. I pay attention to tone. I pay attention to everything. I don't really be around folks anyway, but I definitely, when I'm around, I definitely pay attention, because even like in my career where I used to be very passive and I would just let things slide, I just know that, man, the fight that I fight is nowhere near what my ancestors had to fight. But if I'm just passive about it, then I'm giving my son the same exact fight that I have. I have to go hard so that I can leave behind a legacy for him.
We see it a lot in our Black community. There's a lot of, especially for the people who would be in our parents' age range, their parents were serving white kids dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and taking care of them. They was calling them mama, but then their kids were at home not getting the same attention and love and care. So, yeah, you can't do it for everybody else's kids and not do it for yours. It's true.
Yep. Yeah. And, I was listening to people, and they said, oh, you got to have your other child right away. That didn't make sense to me. First of all, I got milk dripping all the way down my leg. I was trying to breast pump. I was trying to pump the breast. I call it milking. I was trying to milk myself so this baby can have some breast milk. After 3 months, I gave up.
You know what? There's a lot of, especially young girls out here who have children that are autistic, they're on the spectrum, and they don't have the education that you have, and they don't have the background that you have. But also, from outside looking in, I feel like your career in the way that you absorb your knowledge has changed since motherhood. I feel like it gave you more of a passion. Like, how do you feel? How has motherhood affected your career?
One of the things I tell my son is, you can't ask me for help unless you've tried and you've exhausted every option, everything that you can try. Can't ask me for help. You have to do your very best, period. You are Black, and I'm raising you to be a Black king. And because of the color of your skin especially, you have to go above and beyond. But because of the mother that you have, I don't believe in mediocrity. So if that's my standard for him, that's my standard for myself. And he's just made me more intelligent. Another part of him that's made me a geek is because I like peace and quiet, and he talks all the time, right? So I have to get up extra early to talk to God and to read, because I need to clear my mind. I need something else different in my mind other than my son, because his presence is overwhelming. Like, he's like in your face with talking and physically, and he's just there. And I'm used to this. I'm used to stillness.
It's so true.
So he's made me want to be better as a professional and know more. But and me being his mother, I want that for other mothers. I want to be able to give them more information, more results for their children.
It is work. It's hard work, right? So how can mothers and fathers find resources to help their children if they're seeing signs?
If they're in New York, all you have to do is call 311. I can coach parents too. What I tell parents to do is pay attention to your child. Know that your child is supposed to be looking at you when you call their name. Know that your child should not be distancing themselves from other children always. Know that your child should not consistently be parallel playing. They should be trying to engage with the child. Parallel play is they're playing beside somebody and not even paying attention to that person. They should notice things that are going on. They should smile at you. They should do something and get excitement about it and look at you. This is called joint attention, and smile as you look at them accomplishing a goal. If your child's not doing that, if your child is not speaking, if your child is repeating what you say, that's called echolalia. They're just echoing what you say, or they're repeating their favorite cartoon over and over again. That's called palilalia. Repeating the same script from their cartoon. You definitely want to call 311 in New York City and get your child evaluated. The sooner you can get your child evaluated and get your child intensive support, the better your child's prognosis will be. Don't be afraid of it. A lot of our families, a lot of our black families say, oh, you crazy, you're going to get your child evaluated. Oh, you're going to have your child an IEP, an individual education plan. First of all, everybody doesn't learn the same anyway. Second of all, I wish my mom had me an IEP, so when I went to college, I would have accommodations for testing. I would have my testing broken down into sections because it's really hard for me to sit and take a long test. People learn differently. It's okay. That's what I would say to them. And then if you need more supports, if you just need guidance, there are, like, New York City is the place to be if you have children with special needs. But when you talk to certain professionals, they're not always going to give you that information. Well, no, I don't know why people withhold information from people.
Now, okay, so there, like you were saying a little bit, people are kind of scared of evaluations, especially people of color, black people. A lot of people are saying things like the school system is just preparing your child, your young black men, for the penitentiary system. It's just teaching them how to be a prisoner. So in feeling that way, evaluation to them would be giving the school system more ammunition to put their child away, more things to hold against their child. But what's the importance of evaluation? Is that a valid fear that parents should have?
I think that the education system is set up to put black boys in prison. I do. I feel it. However, when you get your child evaluated, that's not where you stop. When you get your child an education, an individual education plan, that's not where you stop. They will put on the IEP. Your child is supposed to have goals, and every quarter, your child is supposed to get a progress report on their goals. When you get a progress report for your child, a lot of times it says making progress or not making progress. Your question needs to be, show me the data. I need you to show me the data. I need you to assess my child in all of these areas beforehand, before the school year starts, and give me a score. And I need for you to do continuous progress monitoring of my child every quarter. Don't just tell me that you think my child is making progress. Where are you getting that from? You need to go into those meetings and speak up for your child and ask questions. Don't look at those professionals and become intimidated. It's okay for you to say you don't understand something, and for you to say, you know what, I still don't understand it. Can you rethink it in a different way?
Do you feel like, as a professional, that it might be even important for people who don't feel like their children are showing any signs of anything to get their children evaluated?
I think that it wouldn't hurt to get your child evaluated so you can see what's going on with them. But if there's nothing going on with your child, don't put your child through it.
Okay, all right.
But if you know that there's something going on with your child, get your child evaluated and put it in writing. The professionals will try to discourage you from getting your child evaluated. Like, y'all, I have fought and fought and fought for these professionals to give my son an evaluation at the school level. I didn't go to the district until Corona. I finally sent them a letter and told them that I want my child evaluated privately at the expense of the public. That means my son's going to be evaluated by private clinicians outside of the Board of Ed, and the school district will pay for it.
All right, that's the information some parents need to know too, because it's not only if you feel like your child is not responding to you, giving you eye contact, you feel like your child is overzealous. They can't listen to direction. They got all the language, or you feel like there's certain things, certain concepts that your child should be grasping, and they grasp other things so well. But in this area, they just cannot understand, and it frustrates them. Maybe it's okay to get them evaluated. You shouldn't be afraid of that, because they might have something holding them back in that area that they can get program put behind them to help them move forward in that area.
Right. So when you get your child evaluated at the school level, not a lot of times if your child's challenge is something that they don't assess, they're not going to discover it, right? So they're going to take you to a meeting and they'll say, oh, there's nothing wrong with your child, but you know in your heart of hearts that there's something going on with your child and you just cannot figure it out. That's when you write a letter to the school district asking for, you know what, I don't agree with this evaluation. They're going to make you feel like there's nothing wrong with your child, like that you're just crazy, you're just making stuff up. That's how they're going to make you feel. But you're going to go home, you're going to say, like, you know, I hear what they're saying, but man, I still feel there's something going on with my baby. So you write a letter and say that you don't agree with the findings, that you will want private evaluations. So presently, my son is getting a neuropsych evaluation. My son is getting and I'm getting him a neuropsych and not an outside, just psychological, because I want them to rule out dyslexia. He reverses his letters. He has a hard time reading not nonsense words. If they are not phonetic, he has a hard time reading it. And it's words that we've gone on over and over again. He can explain himself when he has a free sketch pad to just say what he wants, to express what he wants. But if you ask him a specific question, he has a hard time finding words to talk about, elaborate on what he's talking about. But he has the vocabulary, he has the intelligence. It's just hard for him to put it together. His organization is all rule out or rule in sensory challenges because when he writes, his fine motor skills are very weak. So something that they can do for him is give him different supports to help enhance his fine motor skills. One, they can give him a scribe. That's somebody that's going to write for him when he's taking a test, or provide him, instead of having to write out things, provide him with a laptop so he can type out his things. So I want something put in place for him in order to protect him and to help to enhance his skills in the areas where I know he needs support in.
Right. So these things are not things that you have to be rich to attain. You find the resource. You research and look for these resources. They're available to everyone through
your school district, and that's the law. And some school districts will say, "Oh, we don't have the funding to provide that." An IEP is not created based on what the school district has. The IEP is created based on what that child needs, and they have to create a support plan for that child in order to close the gap, to get them closer to where they need to be.
And these schools get federal funding to do that.
Federal funding. Yep. And you can also go through your insurance too, because you can get some assisted technologies within your home through your insurance as well.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your information in the info box. And this way, especially in the New York metro area, if people are seeing these signs, they can reach out to you and you can give them guidance on what they should be doing. And if you can help them, that'd be all for the better for them. The biggest desire I have for you to come on is just to really give parents, I guess, the inspiration or the hope, just to let them know that they can do it. They can work through so many things. If they really research and look for the resources that they need, they'll find it. The blessing in this is if they come by this video, they know somebody who they can reach out. Your info is going to be right there. They can reach out and say, I don't know what to do. I got this baby and they're not looking at me. They're not speaking and they're big and they're, and they should be able to do these things. And I have other children that are fine, or this is my first child, I'm confused, and you can lead them in the right direction. That's a place where, that's something that comes from your heart. And also, you're an expert in it. So they're not just asking somebody who's a parent who's dealt with it, but you're an expert. You went to school for this. Like, you know what you're doing. So that's important for me, for parents to have that guidance. There is a lot of loss going on and a lot of anxiety in our community. The one thing that we do look forward to is our future and our children and our lineage to be stronger than we were. And so, if people are
let me give y'all some hope right now.
Yeah.
Right? It might be a little harsh, okay? It's going to be harsh. It's going to be from a good place, though. Our ancestors had it bad. What we have, pretty easy compared to being stripped from your homeland and put in shackles, one in front of the other, with your skin chafing, and being put down at the bottom of a ship, sitting in feces and urine and not eating for days, seeing people just jump over the side of the ship just to die because they didn't want to experience what was to come. What we have, just just coming from Africa to America in slavery for years, hundreds of years, and then finally some of our people made it to freedom. Then we had the civil rights movement. Now we have a new movement today, but what we face right now is nothing compared to what our ancestors went through. And you owe it to our lineage to have hope and to go further and to do everything that you can do as a parent to help your baby. And you first start, in my opinion, with praying and asking God for guidance and support. And you second start with getting yourself help. Seek out a counselor or psychologist or therapist to help to build up yourself. Because a lot of times when parents have these children that are different, they start to blame themselves. They experience a depression. So how do you really help your baby if these feelings are burdening you? But then I also want you to think about our ancestors and how they didn't have a choice but to get up, no matter how they felt, to do what they needed to do for massa. So you look at your baby and you get the strength that you need in order to help your baby. Then you call 311 and you get your child evaluated. You don't have to wait for a doctor's referral. You refer your child. Then you call New York State Office for People with Developmental Disability, because when your child turns 3, early intervention is going to go away. Yes, the Board of Ed is going to pick up, but Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, they provide your child services in the home from 3 through life. So I'm going to say you don't have any excuses. I'm going to say life is really what you make it. The things that I have been through would have taken me out of this world if I didn't just keep going and look back at my ancestors like, man, I know that I'm carrying this torch. My people can't afford for me to stop. So your baby can't afford for you to stop. And just know that this life is not all about you. Your life is not about you. It's about advancing God's kingdom. What you going to do with it?
That's good. As we close the podcast, I have a couple of questions for you. All right, you ready?
Yes.
First question is, if social media didn't exist, how would your life be different? I was like, should I get this done? You're like,
I wouldn't have a husband. I met my husband on Instagram.
Oh, he slid in the DMs?
It was really nothing it wasn't attraction at all. So I actually reached out to him because I was at a point in my life. It was February 2016, and I was like, in 2000, what year was that? 2014. I was like, Lord, I'm ready for my husband. And he told me, well, are you the wife that I need you to be for your husband?
Why do you be disrespectful like that sometimes? You'll be like, first of all.
Okay, all right. So he made me focus on Proverbs 31. He made me write down everything that I needed to be in a wife. And I just started working on myself. And then he allowed me to write down what I wanted in a husband. And then he brought me to scriptures that pointed out, like, that's who your husband is supposed to be, those characteristics. You know, I had been exposed to other men. Like, man, these guys are whack. Like, no, this is not my husband. I would meet a guy. After I prayed that prayer, I promise you, and I started working on myself, when I met a guy, we may have exchanged phone numbers and had a 5-minute conversation. I would say, you know what, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the conversation. I wish you the best. This is not going to work out. Well, we didn't even go on a date, but I know I'm not the one for you, and I know you're not the one for me, so I'd rather not waste your time or my time. I said, I'm not being disrespectful. I just know.
Yeah. I just know.
So I started knowing God was speaking to me like very quickly about people. But then I was like, man, I'm meeting these guys who are Christians, okay, and they're still in the world. Like we go on a date, and then you want to talk about sex. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking? Like, this is. So I reached out to my husband. When he wasn't my husband, he started following me he was following me for a long time. I don't know where he came from, but then I started following him, and I would just see that he was a godly man. So I reached out to him for godly counsel on men. Like, is it possible for a Christian man to be fully committed to his wife? Because what I'm seeing out here is these men in these streets that say they Christian.
In the streets.
Right. So that's how we started conversing, and God said that was going to be my husband. So I started fasting, and I told him that same year, in May, I told him And then, God had me to fast from all contact with men. And I told him I can't talk to him. And then I finally met him in person in July. And December, my son asked him to be his father.
Oh, now you see.
So my life would be different. Maybe we would have met somewhere else. I don't know how we would have met, but it wouldn't have been through social media.
Yes, because like she said, she likes to adventure. I'm sure she would have been somewhere, and they would have been like. So, okay, second one is name an activity you used to do when you were younger that you don't do anymore, but you'd likely enjoy if you started again.
Making parties.
Ooh.
Like the backyard cookout parties with the good food and everybody around dancing and just having fun. When I say dancing, nobody's against the wall. I'm telling you, everybody is in the middle of the floor and they getting it the whole night. Talk about fun.
So you don't do that anymore, but you would do that. You would enjoy it if you started again.
Yeah,
okay.
I look forward to a Jamaican reggae backyard barbecue.
This one is a little bit more deep, I guess. Because when I read it, I was like, I guess, but I don't know. So, do you believe that everyone deserves forgiveness?
I don't believe that forgiveness is for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that forgiveness is for the person that you are forgiving. I believe that forgiveness is for the person who was harmed by that person, so that you can grow and you can move on and you can let go of all of those negative emotions. I do believe that everybody deserves forgiveness. I mean, they might not deserve forgiveness, but do we deserve forgiveness from God? Man, I'm going to say that I am not deserving of what God has given me. So who am I not to forgive somebody? Like, I have been through some things, and if I held on to them and not forgave those people, then those people would have power over my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I choose to be the author of my destiny.
Well, Naeema, I got to tell you, I'm very excited about for people to hear this podcast and for people to hear this message. And I really, really thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. We figured this thing out.
Yeah, we was having some trouble in the beginning, Lord. I was about to go ahead on and send this computer right on to the Lord. Send it right on to the Lord. You need a computer? I got one for you. We got to do this again.
Let me know when.
When the setup is different, maybe when I get a little studio space or something like that. Are there any things that you have? Well, no, you do have something going on, and you're going to work on it. And people who are interested in the neurofeedback, treatment. That's what I'll do. We're going to come back and talk about neurofeedback treatment once you have it all set up, and I'm going to get myself scanned, and I'm going to get a plan set in place for my life.
It's really awesome. It's really awesome.
Thanks, Naeema.
Thank you, ma'am.